Recently, the Palm Springs Kiwanis Club had another great speaker. Let's listen in.
I was born in January 6, 1928 in San Antonio, Texas. And at that time, there was some people in a kitchen down in San Antonio cooking and trying to figure out a new product, which finally became Fritos. Fritos were born and produced in 1935 from San Antonio, Texas, and I had been born in 1928. Well, if anybody here, that's ridiculous. Nobody's as old as I am anymore in any room to speak of anyway. So I should have said, are there any senior citizens in the room? Would anybody be over 65 in here? Anybody?
Everybody.
Well, that's good, because I'm not calling anybody senior citizens, because we are not senior citizens. We are seasoned citizens. If you haven't done it by the time you're in your 60s or 70s, you better start now, because we never know if we even have another minute or two. This is where we are right now, this minute. So I hope that you've had the best food in the world that you've ever wanted, the best wine that you've ever wanted to taste. I hope you've had the best sex that you've ever wanted to have. I hope you've been relayed and parlayed and didn't miss a damn thing. Let's not miss anything, because it's one time around. I know I sure as heck didn't. It's been a wonderful life, and I'm still having it. And so here we go. So 1935, I'm doing an audition for this company called Frito-Lay, and we had only radio. That's all there was, radio. And life was very simple, because we didn't have all the complications we have now, because we didn't need to know anything. So we would listen to the radio. So I got the job promoting this product called Fritos. And they're still here. It's called the Lay Company, and they have certainly prospered, as I obviously have, because I'm still here, and I still do things like this. You know, everything, it's just keep on stretching, and you can do it all. I had a stroke. I digress, but I did. I had a stroke. I want to tell anybody here who's had a stroke, you're looking at someone who did America's Got Talent 1 year after I had my stroke, which was last year, so it's 2 years ago. So anybody that's had a stroke and concerned about it's going to happen again, forget it. Just get up, get out, and forget it, because what's going to happen is going to happen. The only thing we can't control is arthritis. Everybody's got arthritis, whom I'm dating now. Have you heard of arthritis? Yeah. Yes, he's my best friend now, arthritis. He's so nice. Anyway, so I did the show on the radio in San Antonio, Texas, and I enjoyed it thoroughly, although I didn't know what I was doing, because who knows when you're 5 years old. So from there, my mother decided she was going to move to Atlanta, Georgia. So we moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and I went to school there. That would be my second school. Altogether, I went to 13 schools across the United States. So I never did have the pleasure of watching my mother go to the PTA or any of the norms. And my mother had divorced early, so I also didn't have a father. But my mother was extremely strong, so anything I turned out to be was, you better do it yourself, because there's no man around to help you. So I guess I was born a feminist or a woman, because there was no man around helping me, that's for sure. So I don't know why all the women don't want men to help them. Because I think it's wonderful to be a woman and to be helped. I thought it was wonderful to be whistled at the water cooler or flirted with. We all did. Those were called compliments. We were being flattered. It was wonderful to have men pay attention to you. Now it's sexual harassment. What is wrong with this picture? Women don't even know how to be feminine. And I'm not even talking about my life anymore. Okay. The first song I ever sang, I'm going to sing the first song I ever sang for you, because Ella Fitzgerald recorded it. And I guess I'm older as old, but she's not alive either. But it was, Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those creepers? Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those eyes? Gosh, y'all, get up. How did they get so lit up? Gosh, y'all, get up. How did they get that size? Ooh, 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 ooh. Golly gee, when you turn those heaters on. Woe is me. I got to put my cheaters on. Jeepers, creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Oh, those weavers, how they hit the tide. Where'd you get that size? How did they get that size? Remember Betty Boop? Thank you. So, that took me to Atlanta, Georgia, and from Atlanta, Georgia, Mama had a home where her home was Glen Head, Long Island, New York. And so we went to Glen Head. We got in the car and drove, I guess, about 5 times across the country. Well, there were no freeways. It really was Route 66. They were highways. We would go through all of the towns. We'd see Burma shave signs. I wish somebody remembered that. It was a joy going across them. Well, we had to go through the towns. We didn't go around them. We went through them. So I really did see the United States. I had one lady came into the Ace Hotel and she said something to me that we all take for granted. She said, I was born in Europe, and having lived in Europe all my life, in England and traveling all over Europe, the one thing that caught my attention immediately in the United States was, my God, I've traveled 1,000 miles. I've never shown my passport. I've never changed my language, and I've never had to have the dollar changed to another currency. Nobody ever said that to me until about 2 months ago, Danny, at the Ace. And it never occurs to any of us how free we are. We get the same thing. It just is so wonderful to be an American, isn't it? I mean, whoever thinks of that kind of stuff? So again, when I went to New York, I think I went to school somewhere else. I went to school there in Glen Head, and my mother took me into the Radio City Music Hall with my sister. I do have a sister, and I just fell in love with dancing, the Rockettes. We saw the Rockettes dancing, and the movies. And then the movie that they had was called The Great Ziegfeld. Maybe you saw it. It's Turner Classic Movies. It's a wonderful movie. And out comes these beautiful, beautiful ladies. They're showgirls. And they're walking, and I thought, oh my God, I want to be a dancer. Oh no, oh my God, I want to be a showgirl. Or, oh no, my God, I want to be a singer. I don't want to leave Broadway, I want to go be in show business. And so my mother says, no, you can't be, we're going to California. Well, California, prior we wanted to go to California because we were all movie happy. I was cutting out paper dolls of movie stars while my sister was playing with real dolls. I didn't want to know them, I just admired them because they were not real. Now they're very real. We even know when they go to the bathroom. I don't care when they go to the bathroom. I just want to watch them on the screen and like them as actors. We know too much about everything now. There are no mysteries. There's no, what do you call it? A panache, the joy of the mystery of, I don't want to know what Mr. Clinton is doing with his penis. I really don't. And I don't care that Jack Kennedy had mistresses. We had Roosevelt. And I didn't find out for a long time later because he was president for 3 years when I was growing up, so I only knew Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I didn't know he had a mistress, and if he did, who cared? Because he was running a very serious time called World War II. And they'd probably kill Harry Truman if anybody dared let an atomic bomb go off. God knows what would happen. I don't know. Politically, see, I just keep getting off the subject. Politically, all the presidents that I went through, and anybody my age, or even in their 70s, it all worked out okay. You know, nobody wants to sink the country, so forget that part of it. Where am I? I'm in New York. I'm now a coloratura soprano studying opera. And Mother says, no, we're going to California. So we did. We go to California, and I am on a radio show here on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles called KNX. That was the name of the station. It was CBS. I have a picture of myself in front of the microphone. I was a very fat child. I weighed about 120, and I was 5 feet tall with crooked teeth. So I was certainly not a pretty face, but I was one hell of a singer. And I got a contract with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. That was the great day of the musicals at MGM. And so I went to school at MGM. They, for part of the school, we would do 4 hours of school, learning cursive writing and all of that stuff. And the people like Gloria DeHaven and Darryl Hickman were all in school, and they were doing movies, but we had a good education. Now, the rest of the afternoon was done to ballet lessons, acting lessons, opera coaching lessons, diction, all. I had a southern accent. Honey, I was so Texas, I had a southern accent like this. But MGM took it all away. I had very crooked teeth. They straightened my teeth. What else did they do? I had flat feet. I learned to walk on my tiptoes, and I cured my flat feet. So they did all that for me. And then and also they paid me. And my mother didn't have to work. I was supporting my mother when I was 12 years old. They dropped my option. And I was unemployed again. Unemployed at 14. I was a failure then. My mother had to go back to work. I had to go to public school. I loved my school. Alexander Hamilton High School in West Los Angeles. Anybody go to school in West Los Angeles? Fairfax! Yes, we used to do football. I think you were in our football league. Weren't you?
You were.
You were? We were not?
You were in the league, yeah.
Yeah, in the league.
I wasn't a player.
Oh, no, I didn't mean that. I meant, but we played one another.
Yes.
Fairfax played Hamilton.
True.
Oh, you're familiar with Hamilton High School?
I went to Fairfax. Also.
You went to Fairfax. Oh, well, see, I love so. I just love it. So I went back to school. Now, maybe you remember this. So when I graduated from high school, we didn't know what to do. I was, had studied my music, was still studying music, and somebody said they're looking for showgirls. I'm 17 years old, graduating from school in 1945. I graduated from high school. They're looking for showgirls at the Errol Carroll Theater, which was on the corner of Sunset and Vine. And you may know it because they did Star Search and Queen for a Day, all these shows. It was a fabulous theater. They used to lower our costumes from the ceiling. We had rain that came down. I had to pee every time they turned that damn rain machine on. We stand there like this, freezing in the rain. And a staircase, walkway that came out. You'd load up in the back and it would come out on the thing. Fantastic theater. Anyway, so I was showgirl there, and I was 17, so I've come full circle. Well, we'll get to that one later. So here we go. I'm not reading this because I can't even remember. You forget a lot when you get to be 89, and you've done as much as I've done. Because I've done now already, I think I've been to at least 12 schools, which I didn't mention. And let's see, they dropped my option. I went back and I became a showgirl. Oh, yes. So we all quit Errol Carroll's. I wanted to sing, and we had dancers, people with a lot of talent. And when you are in a show, you do the same thing every night. You know exactly when you're going to do this. You know precisely what time you're going to do this, or this, or this, or whatever. And it's boring. It's very boring. So we quit. We got an agent. They put together a group called the Cover Girls. And we went up to Lake Tahoe. Well, I'm telling you, I saw Lake Tahoe in 1948. And Lake Tahoe was probably one of the most beautiful jewels ever in the world. It was gorgeous. I say was because, like everything else, it is filled with condominiums, polluted water, and you can't see the lake unless you're in a house, probably. I don't know. There's good things and bad things about being old. The good things are, God, it was beautiful. Wasn't nature and everything just so nice before progress came in and, took the desert and made it green and farming and so forth? I don't know. So anyway, I'm up there with this group called the Cover Girls. We opened in Lake Tahoe. We ran the whole summer. And the people that I worked with there, as I said, the acts continued to come and go. Lena Horne, Ted Lewis, Sophie Tucker, the Ritz Brothers, Martin Lewis, I met them later. Just about any of those famous people could be seen by going into the lounges or the places. This is Lake Tahoe. They only had two places. The place I worked, which was Tahoe Village, and this is funny. Tahoe Village was on the corner. What's that big grade you go up to get to Tahoe? You turn off and you come up on South Shore. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. And the guy that owned the club had killed somebody. He was a gangster. His name was Russian Louis Strauss. So we're now booked to work the summer in a club that had been closed for some time because Louis had to go to jail because he killed somebody. He shot him right there in the thing. And they wrote a song for him. All right, Louis, drop the gun. You're not fooling anyone. And I Googled it, I looked it up, and you can too. Russian Louis Strauss. True story, they did write a song for him. All right, Louis, drop the gun. Okay, so we finished there, and all those fabulous people that we met who continued on to become legends in their own time, really. Sophie Tucker certainly was. Lena Horne certainly was. A lot of people don't remember Ted Lewis. He had an orchestra. The Rich brothers, of course, continued on to great success, and I got to work with them later when I went to Texas and worked 1 year without a night off at a place called the Balinese Room in Galveston, Texas. And that was very interesting, too. Well, of course, all of it was interesting. It was very tiring. But on that job, I saved all my money and bought my first mink stole. And you could do that then because they didn't care whether the minks lived or died. And we didn't know that the foxes had little families. Or that everything coveted. Everybody wanted those fur coats. I sure did. Boy, I worked my ass off to get it, too. Nobody bought me one. I bought my own. Bought my first diamond, bought my first mink. But I worked very hard and saved my money. And then I'd buy myself a goodie, and then I'd start saving my money again until I became... I've always had a bank account, because that's what my mama taught me. She said, you got a nickel, you save 3 cents out of that nickel. And remember, $1 was worth $1. A postage stamp was a nickel. A phone call was 5 cents. You could go to a movie for a dime or 25 cents. A Hershey bar, a nickel. We got our dollar's worth. We had a full dollar. And you're very young. You are very young. How old are you?
Well, I'm 47.
47, that's a baby. Honey, I'm twice as... But I bet you didn't know that dollar was worth a full dollar, that you could use a penny. A penny would go on a postcard for a stamp. You could mail that 5 cents for a stamp. And it stayed that way, I guess, until I was 60. I don't know when they started these insane rates. Hell, it's too expensive to send Christmas cards. Now you can afford the Christmas cards, you can't afford the stamps. It's really weird. So we're up there, and I'm falling in and out of love all the time. I can't forget that, because I have yet to be married. I am still very single and dating a lot of people, because it was very glamorous having the stage door Johnnies with the flowers and the jewels. And we had the Trocadero, we had Ciro's, we had the Macambo, we had the most, and we would go in tuxedos and beautiful gowns, and they had Rolls Royces, and people dressed to go out. They did not put on a running suit, take a paper bag for their lunch or whatever they were going to take home. We lived in glamorous times. The 40s were glamorous. We got dressed up to get on an airplane. We had to have matched luggage. Remember, Doug, you're not that old. I'm not saying that you are, but you're looking like you remember some of these things. But we did. We had matched luggage, and we would put on gloves and heels and hats, and we would get on that airplane sick as hell because, man, they had a long way to go when it came to comfort on flying. So I took my first airplane ride in 1947, and trust me, it changed a lot because I started flying like 100,000 miles a year. And so where am I? We're going now from Lake Tahoe and meeting all those wonderful people. We got a booking at the San Francisco and lived at the Fairmont Hotel, which was absolutely wonderful. But where we lived at the Fairmont Hotel, we'd go to the elevator. I considered the lobby my living room. I did, because I lived there a year. I'd have a date, and I'd have them take me to the elevator, and I'd push the button to go up, when in fact, after a while, I pushed it to go down. Because during the war, they had built over the drugstore on the corner of, I wish I could remember the streets, but it's not Green Street, Nob Hill, because we're across the street from them. Oh dear. I want to say the Cliff Hotel, but that's not right. Anyway, it's the top of Nob Hill. So down below, over the drugstore, they had built a lot of rooms, and they gave them to the officers during the war. So all of these rooms, and I mean rooms, had a bathroom, and that was it. There was nothing glamorous about living at the Fairmont Hotel, except the lobby. I was very happy to live there. And Dick Swig owned it. I knew the Swig family very well. They were wonderful, wonderful people. And the man in the Cirque room, he was there for, I don't know, 10 years or something, formed a group, and I later got a job with him on the road. But that's where I met Rowan and Martin when they were just new coming out. I met Jerry Lewis, and he took a pratfall right onto the floor. They stayed there and worked the Venetian room. We used to, there were no tapes. There was no way to preserve what they had done on their performances. So they would have a man who would go with them, and Dennis does this for me over at the Ace Hotel. I ask him to take notes or time something for me, and he does this because he comes in every Monday. But this guy, we would have more fun. He would write down anything that went over with Rowan and Martin, which was just about everything, so they could remember and work on that particular line. Otherwise, there was no way to preserve their comedy. which was totally spontaneous. There was nothing written. You'd go out, like now, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, I'm just talking. If I haven't noticed, because I'm wondering what century I'm in on that thing. No. So anyway, I met them, and I remember once when Stan Kay, the one who did it, he'd never do it with you, but we had a folding bed, and we literally folded him up in the folding bed and pushed him out into the lobby. I just never wondered what happened when the maid found him in the morning, if they did. So anyway, I got married, so I met somebody. My relationships had been really a few long-term relationships with a married man, or a couple of married men. I wouldn't trust a man who is married any further than I could throw him. And I wouldn't trust any man, married or not, because I don't think man was really meant to be monogamous. I don't know how they do it. People are married 40 years, it just blows me away. Because I have been married 4 times, and 3 of my husbands really did die. They did not leave me any money. I had to continue working. But the 4th marriage, I almost killed him getting a divorce. Because as I said on America's Got Talent, death is easier than divorce. Anybody here been divorced? Divorce never ends. It doesn't end. There are children, there are things, there are papers, there are houses, there are material things. It sounds very cold to say death is easier, and I don't mean that. It isn't. Emotionally, it is a killer. But here I am, after having several nervous breakdowns. Anyway, that's my story. I did almost kill him. So now I'm married, have a child, and my husband is killed in a car wreck. My son is 5. I have to go back to work again. Lost my house, which was beautiful in Lafayette. I lived in Lafayette, California, which is Contra Costa County, if any of you know that area. Unimportant, but it's quite a beautiful neighborhood. And so I went to work at Bimbo's 365 Club. That was quite a famous club because there was a lady who was naked in a fishbowl. And they called her the girl in the fishbowl. She would be in the lobby. Nobody remembers that. Too bad. It's possible to be naked in a fishbowl. So anyway, I did get married. I had to go back to work. And then I went on the road with, who did I go with? Let's see. Went on the road. Oh, I know. This fellow came to pick me up on a booking, and the booking was from San Francisco all the way to Duluth, Minnesota. We get in a car with a total stranger, and we drive to Duluth, Minnesota. That took a few days. Well, the fellow that I was with, we shared the room together. Believe me, it's possible when you're that broke, or not broke, but you need to save your money. You're not going to spend it on luxurious rooms, which is what the kids do today. They're not willing to sacrifice comfort so they can save the buck, because they'd rather have the comfortable bed for one night than save the $25 or $30. When we got to Duluth, Minnesota, we opened. It was freezing cold. It was below 0. I had a leather coat. I didn't have anything. I was so cold that as I walked down the street of Duluth, every store I went into, I bought something warm. A scarf for my neck. I had a leather coat. It was so cold it cracked. That coat literally cracked. Anyway, the fellow that I traveled with, who I didn't know, but met and became very dear friends with, has become probably the most famous recording drummer in the world. I'm very proud to have him as a friend. He still lives here. His name is Hal Blaine, and Hal Blaine is the Wrecking Crew. I loaned him $100 to get in the car, a plane ride. You know him. You know of him? The Wrecking Crew? Yeah, they just had a movie released 2 years ago. Hal is here. And I gave him $100 for plane fare to go up to join a young man singer by the name of Tommy Sands. He joined Tommy Sands. Tommy Sands married Nancy Sinatra. Now, when you're married to Nancy Sinatra, you have your Frank Sinatra as your father-in-law. Well, that was the beginning of Hal Blaine. He never stopped working. He came right back and gave me the $100 back, and we are still friends. But Hal Blaine is the most recorded drummer on the most amount of platinum and gold records. So I'm proud to say that. I put that in there anyway because I cared about it. All right, so I'm going to jump a whole bunch of years probably and come up to the present. The present started for me when I saved enough money doing a movie. I forgot my movie. My movie. Do you recognize this song? Pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little, pick, cheep, cheep, talk a lot, pick a little more, pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little, cheep, 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 talk a lot, pick a little more. Nobody? Pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little, cheep, 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 pick a little. Music Man. You never heard of the movie Music Man? Music Man came out exactly the same year as, Bernstein's West Side Story. They were both nominated for Best Musical. I was very disappointed to find West Side won. They were both brilliant, but I saved so much money. I had a run-of-the-movie contract doing the motion picture Music Man. I played Amy Dakin. I only had 2 lines, but you get more money when I had to join the Screen Actors Guild, of course, and if anybody comes back and lives another life, be an actor. Those people, the money they make is obscene. It is incredible, incredible. But I saved my money, and I came to Palm Springs and bought a condo. That was the best thing ever happened to me because that was latter part of the 80s, or 70s or 80s. But I auditioned and got a job in a show called The Fabulous Palm Springs Follies. And I was the original in the very first show. They held me over for the second show and the third show. But I couldn't dance. I was a showgirl, and I could move. I studied dancing. I just never could. I think there's so much arithmetic involved in feet. Do you realize that when they're doing things with their feet, they're having to remember what to do with their hands? Then they're having to do, like Bob Fosse, hats, hands, hips, feet, and the feet are still moving. That's coordination. Isn't that incredible when you really break down dancing, how many parts of the body and the mind you have to separate? It's an incredible talent. It is. It's so much more than just looking at them. You have all this other stuff that you have to do. So anyway, I wasn't a dancer. And now I got a condo, and now I got Fabulous Palm Springs Follies. From the Fabulous Palm Springs Follies, after I didn't work there anymore, I went on to do several shows I opened the Fantasy Springs Lounge for Greg Purdy, who did a fantastic show which he wrote for me called Festival. It was 4 very young men and 5 very young ladies. And they used to say to me, when you're in the Follies, all of us were over 65 years old. And so that was the minimum. You had to be 60 or something like that. And I was almost 70 when I joined the Follies. Yeah, I was the second oldest one. We had one a little older than me. I think she must be in her 90s, and she's still teaching ballet. Sunny Gillian was her name. And she may still be living, I hope so. Let's see. They asked what we would talk about. Well, when we were in the Follies, in the dressing room, the ladies would talk about cooking, recipes, grandchildren, husbands, household problems, need a new roof, all that kind of good stuff. Now, I leave the Follies, and I've got these hot guys in their 20s, and I started wearing thongs. I was in my 70s, and I started wearing thongs. I mean, I was a boy. It took the old out of me. I mean, if there was any old there ever, by God, I'm dressing like them, no bra, all this stuff. It was wonderful. So what we talked about was the girls talked about men, and the men talked about men. I learned how to put cologne on through one of the gay dancers, one of the men dancers. He would spritz in the air and fly through the odor. And I do that to this day. So you're not just spritzing it on yourself. Spritz it into the air and walk into it. And it gets all over you. It's wonderful. That's what he did. You could probably try it with hairspray. No, but it did. I learned so much from them. I love that. 2 seasons there and trips to Las Vegas for the fittings because we had wonderful costumes. And our designer was finally the one who went to the Follies and did the next few years. Fantastic clothes we had. Now, that takes us up to, where am I? I'm at the fabulous, Oh, the next show. Oh, you're going to love this one because did anybody ever hear of the show Hee Haw?
Yeah.
John Aylesworth? John Aylesworth and Anita Rufus, my dear friend Anita Rufus, and John Aylesworth are married, and Anita Rufus is called the Lovable Liberal. She still has a radio show, I think a couple of times a week, called the Lovable Liberal, and she and John put on a show called Palm Springs Confidential, and that ran, a couple of seasons. John Aylesworth was probably one of the funniest men in the world, if you ever saw Hee Haw. They were sight gags. I mean, for instance, one of my lines was, I would be singing, "The falling leaves drip through my window, the falling leaves." Well, here would come this man with a blower. And blow. Because the complaint and the topic of that particular thing was, people are complaining about the noise pollution that the gardeners are doing in Palm Springs. So that was his little bit. The autumn leaves and the windblower. So it lost everything in the retelling. Anyway, it was a funny show. That lasted a very long time. Bill Marks did the music, and Bill Marks is still here. He was the stepson of the, not Groucho, Harpo Marx. He was the adopted son of Harpo Marx, and he's still playing piano. But he did the music for that show, and of course John Aylesworth did the lyrics. I should do, that's my Facelift song, which he wrote for me, which maybe I'll come back and do, but just to amuse the lady. Anyway, they called me and said, would I like to play bingo? And I went, oh my God, are you kidding me? Who wants to play bingo? I'm 88 years old and they want me to go call bingo? Well, a dear friend of mine, Linda Gerard, with whom I had been with at the Palm Springs Follies, I had known her. She called bingo and I thought, that's the bottom of the barrel, by God, the poor Linda. Well, I didn't know they paid so well and I didn't know how much fun it would be. But Linda got cancer and passed away, and they replaced her with Bella Duvall, I believe, for a while, and another gentleman. Bella is a wonderful, wonderful person. I adore her. Him. Well, I just call her Bella, and I get confused. She Googled me and used the name and Brian.
Yeah, Brian.
Well, I don't know what to call him, her. I really don't. We have a thing every night. It's so tall. I love Bella. So I was ill. I got up and I came in. I didn't know what I was doing, but I sat there. I learned. Anyway, that's what I'm doing. I go do bingo once a month, every Monday night. It has been so successful that we are now taking, for the first time in the history of the Ace Hotel, reservations. And I'm doing 3 hours instead of 2 hours. And you can't get into the place. Last night, Denny is there every Monday night. The reservations, they were still in line out to the lobby. And people come in and say, we saw you in Sweden. We saw you in New York. People come. Anyway, I'm through. I'm going to tell you that I've lived here 24 years. I am thrilled to have been here this afternoon. I think what the message I want to leave you with is, if you've had a stroke, if you're ill, if you have a challenge coming up to you, don't ever think you're too old. Don't ever think you can't learn again. Don't ever think if you had it, you'll never get it back again. You just need to want it. And if you don't want it, when you take the first baby step, the very first step, it had a vibrato. I didn't like the way it sounded, but I knew something was still there and I could get it back up. And you can do it with anything. I don't care what it is, unless if you're physically able, work through the pain. When I hit a wall of pain, I just take a deep breath and literally try to go a couple of inches through it. And then I'll keep trying until I go through that pain. I can do that. Yoga taught me that. I've taken yoga for many, many years. Yoga and the muscles and all of this stuff that I can still do is strictly through stretching. I could give classes on how wonderful it is when you hit that place, take a deep breath and go a little further. And do that in life, because that's what it is. Taking a deep breath and going just a little bit further. I've had a wonderful time being here. I thank you. I hope I've told you anything. And if you know people who have had strokes, please tell them. It's not the end of the world. You're not going to get another one. So live. Enjoy. Thank you very much.
For more, go to KiwanispalmSprings.org.